my name is Michael. I will be explaining the creative process of creating digital art. Digital art can take place on any device or application you choose to use. I prefer using my iPad and Apple Pencil to draw on the app Procreate. I will be explaining the step-by-step process of how to produce art digitally. Parts of this will be my own personal preference, however. First, I will talk about how to decide on what to draw, and then I will talk about the coloring process and how to add detail. To start any drawing, I need inspiration to draw something or someone. Finding inspiration can be helpful when creative block happens. I like to find a picture I really like or I might want to draw, and I ask myself a few questions. Will this be easy for me to recreate? Will this photo have too much detail for me to draw, or do I just draw the main subject? Is the lighting weird, or do the colors matter? Once I pick something I want to draw, I go from there, and I go to Procreate. From there, I import the photo to the canvas, and then I pick out the main colors I want to use, and then from there, I go, first step, I sample all the colors from the photo, so I have the color palette to use. And I do this by holding down on the picture where I want to sample a color and save it to a new palette. The second step I do is turn the opacity of the photo down so I can outline the main details and lines. To me, this is the easy way out of drawing what you see because you get a perfect copy of your subject and background details. Once I outline everything, I then go to step 3. I start to color it all in using the colors I picked. I start coloring in by either using the fill option to quickly color in big spaces, or sometimes this doesn't work because you have to have lines perfectly connecting. So I color using a small brush at first to fill in around the lines, and then I color with a bigger brush setting to fill in quicker. Sometimes layers can be helpful too in separating your background and main subject so that coloring becomes less messy and overall just easier. While coloring, I make sure I am using the color closest to where it would be in the photo. Depending on how complex the drawing is, I use a few layers to make coloring easier. Layers are helpful in separating where they go. For example, separating the background from the main subject is good because I can color the background without worrying about messing up the main subject. After filling in all the colors, I start the detailing. Adding the details will range from skin tones, shadows, highlights, and strokes of hair, etc. Usually I like to start the detailing process with the skin, if I'm drawing a person, of course. I start off by adding colors to where they need to be, like shadows and such, and I adjust the opacity to a lower setting so that it's easier to add more if I need it. Then, once all the shading and highlighting of the skin is done, I smooth it out with a blending tool. The next step I like to take is detailing the face, since it usually is one of the more complex parts to get done. Usually I use a small brush to do the face details, and then I detail everything else like the hands, ears, etc. I save the detailing for the hair last because it's so time consuming. Hair, anywhere besides the head, I do first since it's easy for me to get out of the way. Then after, I outline the hair and I go in and make strokes in the direction the hair goes. Afterwards, I fill in the parts I didn't get using a bigger brush and a low opacity setting so I can add more color if needed later on. Then I use the blending tool to make the hair look less cartoon looking. And then I go over the hair again with a small brush and make strokes where they need to be so that it looks as natural as possible. If for whatever reason I have color bleeding into the background of anything it needs cleaning up, I just do that before moving on to the background. Sometimes the background is a solid color, or sometimes there's lots of work to do. If it's a solid color, then it's easy to just fill in with whatever color is necessary. When I have a complex background, though, I follow the same process as before, and I fill in with the main colors and go from there with detailing later on. For example, it might be easier to use brushes that are available that mimic real life, like a water brush or one that mimics clouds. At this point, I usually am done with my drawing, and I always go over and make sure everything is how I want it, so before I say I'm done. And I hope this demonstration of digital art helps anyone who'd like to start up drawing digitally or brought curiosity to anyone listening. Thank you for listening to my personal approach on how to create digital art. I went over how to decide on what to draw and how to set it up, and I talked about the coloring process and how to add detail. Overall, I think creating art is really, really fun in the digital world and can be even more exciting once you get the hang of it.